including me whistling while, while you're off, but that's okay.
Okay,
Yes, I
great.
have the recording.
All right.
Um, Now, so what I was going to be talking about is data structures. I like this. This makes sense to me. Now, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. Well, let's try it.
Yeah.
Because what we got here is this, and we got here is this.
Yep. That's right.
Now, what I need,
Instructions and
yeah. I mean, we're going back to real basics here on. We've got above this is the goalie that decides you're in. The goalie decides where in the hierarchy you're in. So you're now talking about CRM, you're now talking about customers and so on. The runner is the one that goes, oh, right, okay, so here's what I've got to do, and here's the data I've got to do it on. Cool. The commissioner is the one, if you're just with a slash and didn't know what a CRM was, starts to construct the CRM for you. I like that structure. Are we synced on that one?
yep.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Can
So
I?
let me just share my screen very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what the customer record actually looked like when it's just generated using a markdown renderer with a little bit of
What
emoji
was?
sparkle in there.
Yeah, always love emojis.
Yeah.
What was the? Can you show me the sysprompt for this? What was the top level sysprompt?
Oh, no,
More
that
specifically.
was just a component just to experiment with what I was doing. So here, this was just testing with 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
I supplied it a markdown record, and then I was like, "Hey, can you add a new purchase item to it?" Right,
Right,
and
right.
it does that. So I can actually do things very quickly here, like that's how quickly it spits out.
Boom.
That's so fast.
And it's only going to get faster. That's pretty good, actually.
That's that's more than ample, and that was the
Yeah.
entire record. So what it means is I don't have to do anything fancy, like try to be like just update the email.
Did
I'm
you have
like,
to tell it what Markdown was? That you wanted to use
no,
Markdown, rather. It knows
no,
what Markdown is, but, you
it's
know.
good at it. Yeah, it's good at it. Okay,
Yeah.
and it can do lots of other formats too, like but the speed at which it generates it means that it doesn't actually matter. Um, we really don't need to do any tricks about the records. We'll just rewrite them in full, and
Yeah.
then when we do the get diff, we may want to include some additional checks, like so this thing. Let's
We
say
need dedupe, though. So, sorry. Go ahead.
this thing wrote the record down, and then we do a
Yeah.
second call to GPT to say, look at the diff between this record and this record. Does this match what the customer asked to? Does this match what the user asked to do? And
Yeah.
so you can sort of add some checks in there, and then Git handles the compression, the deduplication, the hashing, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the dedupe is important because what you don't want is to have it hallucinate wireless mouse with wireless mouse
Yeah, it
for,
never
for
does that
whatever
though.
reason.
Have you seen it do that?
Um, I have. Now, where did I get it? It was with the four-name Christian name hallucination.
Right. So
You got it.
first of all, I haven't seen that,
Mm,
but second of all, one more pass with like a check is gonna kill any of that. Like it
yeah.
never
That's what.
hallucinates twice.
That's my point about the multiple bots.
Yeah.
Um,
That would be, hey,
you just
and
give
then
a top level bot. Here's the information that we need. If you want to add information, that's fine. We'll add it into the canonical definitions of
Yeah.
what a phone is, or what a mobile is, or what a telephone is, and so on. So you don't get duplicate records. Um, and that bot can be written once for multiple purposes, and then that bot sits at the top and looks at what
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah,
interactions
yeah.
are.
So we can also do um oh dear. We can also
Mhm.
make a new one. Seems to be the day for it.
Yeah,
Now, you can
why not?
also, once you've got, so say you've got this tree, right? There's like all this stuff in there. Then you've got
Mhm.
out here, you've got this other client, like some other user. And then
Mhm.
when they have their modified version, like they just updated a customer record and blah, 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 they
Mhm.
then PR back, right? So they try to pull request to, let's just call this in inverted commas, master.
Yeah.
And then what is important is that before I accept the PR, I can run all the logic checks of the README to make
Yeah, yeah,
sure that all that's
exactly.
happened.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
that's exactly what I'm saying.
it can.
It's a sense check. It's a
I,
sense check.
I don't know if the hallucinations are repeatable. So that, if this one was using the same model and it hallucinated, it would appear. These are things that we'll discover. But you can also run it twice. Like you can loop it back on itself when you're doing the actual activity in the first place, but then as a second safeguard, the PR is made. And because the PR can be made to process diffs instead of
Mm-hmm.
process the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
asking the same question a totally different way, it each time we do that, the chance of a hallucination making it through gets less and less and less and less. And then at the end
Right.
of the day, who really cares? If there is a
Exactly. If
hallucination,
you're
you
five,
eventually spot it.
if you're at 5 nines, you're fine.
Yeah, you eventually
For
spot it, and you're
enterprise.
like, "Oh, that's weird. There's an extra S in wireless. How did that happen?" You're like, "Can you just fix it?"
Yeah.
Yep, done,
Yeah,
done. Get
yeah.
on with your life.
That example on phones is an interesting one because there are, you got phone, telephone, mobile, tel. There's a number of things that you could say what a phone number is, but a phone
Yeah,
number is the same thing.
yeah, yeah,
But what you want is when it's committed, when it's PR'd, you need something above it saying, well, I know what a phone is, I know what a telephone is, I know what a mobile phone is, I know what a
yeah,
mobile
yeah.
is,
So that
etc.
all
And
comes
I'm going to
into
call it
the
that. Yeah.
that all is defined in
Is
your README.
this well this PR loop needs a bot to say, okay, I'm going to write you guys all chatting about all sorts of things.
Yeah, so that
If
but
you
that
PR, I'm going
that's
to
all
make sure it's
defined
right.
in the README file. It can also
Right.
be not necessarily README files, but it's acceptable to say something like dot rules, so that that would be the equivalent of. I think my pen's run out of VR ink or something. Like we can, if I
Those are the same. I'd
yeah,
put
yeah,
rules instead of
yeah,
the
yeah. But you
yeah,
can have arbitrarily many dot files
yeah,
where the dot files mean different things and all that.
and have a priority. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
We can do all that.
the important thing is, from my point of view, is the context. So when the session is being run by README here under
Yeah,
customers,
yeah,
that needs to have priority over anything else, but it also needs to have sight of the overall context. Now,
yeah. Sure. I think we're getting into the weeds with that. I don't know how that's all going to work. It'll thrash out as we go to build it. The
yeah,
overarching concept is that this data structure appears to have everything we need to specify the instructions plus the data plus merging the data, which is the key aspect of a multi-user system.
the PR thing is really interesting. I think I like that.
Yeah, and that was really what we wanted to get to with the blockchain stuff, was that you could work offline and then you could merge it all back in. But then we're like, well,
Yeah,
if it is actually only Markdown files and the rules are here,
Yep.
merging something that had an executable all bound up in it is why the complexity of the blockchain ballooned, because that's actually quite that's not straightforward. If you're
Yeah.
just trying to merge plain text
Yeah.
and
Well.
your
Yeah. Yeah.
rules are
Yeah. But
set here.
that kind of falls out, doesn't it? Because X's source is diktat. And you're saying, I know I'm dictating to you, you have to do this and only this.
Yeah,
Whereas with NL, what you're saying is, this is my intent, this is what I want to do, you fucking work it out.
yeah, that's right. That's right. It's
I'm not
declarative.
going to dictate to you.
Yeah, you're declaring what you want, and then it figures out how to get there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think that's really
yeah.
powerful.
So the complexity of the chain can decrease significantly because of the fact that the execution is handled in the LLM, not in chain space. And
Yeah,
so there's like, for starters, less code, but also many operations are simplified. Like merging back in isn't really a code heavy operation that I have to spend ages making sure that, is it Byzantine fault tolerant that we've merged in a bunch of changes that were executed on, do I
right,
have to
right,
replay
right.
them? Well, maybe
Right,
not.
which is like 6 months right there. Yeah,
Yeah, and so here it's like I don't really care. Like you can sketch out so many different systems with different sets of rules, and the merging logic is still sort of the same. It's really not anything
yeah,
special. Um,
yeah,
Plus,
yeah,
if we're doing things like the consensus mechanism is sort of handled by these NL rule sets, like you find a problem, okay, show me the commit, show me the situation, run,
work it out.
show me the
Yeah,
fault, right? And then either you fix it or I'll find someone who can be like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that. Well, how about? And then we try a bunch of scenarios. The next day, outcomes are fixed, right?
yeah,
Fast, easy, simple, done.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So
Amazingly, amazingly fast.
yeah, amazingly fast. Now, what are we going to get for all this, Maxwell? What are we going to get?
Well, we've got 17th of January coming up, which is our big test, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I don't care actually. I'd hate to be a dick about it, but
Well, I don't know. I like whether it's 17th of January or 17th of July. I don't really care, but we need a test for
yeah, I
this
know.
because it's otherwise we're going. I think we're going in the right direction, but we need a crucible in order to melt our own thinking.
So I guess my choice that I have to make is do I do I proceed with the 17th of January using Artifact, or do I just hack something together using Git?
I have an opinion about that,
Yeah,
and you're probably not going to like it.
go on.
What you've been saying today about consensus over Git is why the fuck would we go Artifact? Why not go Git? Because
Yep, fuck you, but yep.
um,
Okay, cool.
I know
Yep,
I'm really
no,
sorry
let's do
about
it.
that, man. But
You're not sorry. When let's that's
no, well, no, no, I'm not sorry. I think it's the right thing I'm
okay.
saying.
So let's
I
just let's just
I'm
let's just
apologetic because I feel for your pain. Let's put
I
it that way.
know, I know.
Yeah.
Everyone's sorry. Yeah. All right. So we'll roll on with that. That would give us very high performance. Very,
Also,
very high performance,
the
actually.
architecture on Git is easily testable because we still don't know whether we're right. It'd be good to really fuck up,
Yeah. I mean, okay.
in
All
the
right. Well,
next few
that's cool.
weeks.
So we'll do this because it looks good enough, and we need to know what the edge cases are pretty soon. So this will give us that. So we're actually
Yeah,
running two tests in tandem. We're running the kiosk test, and then we're also running the Git test in
yeah,
parallel whilst
yeah.
running what do we call this? You sort of gave it a good name when it's like
Oh,
LLM native. What do you call it?
I can't remember. Yeah,
Oh god.
I don't know
Okay.
what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, it's in the recording somewhere.
Yeah, I know. What do we call this philosophy of using the LLM as the execution engine?
Well, it's like natural language all the way down, isn't it? I don't know what. Can't remember.
Um,
I honestly can't remember what it said.
yeah, okay. So the three tests are kiosk mode, Git, and
Well, let's just call it LLM native. That's good enough, isn't it? I mean that kind of expresses what we're trying to
yeah.
do.
I honestly don't know why it's called natural language. In retrospect, it doesn't actually feel very natural at all once you really get
Well,
into the.
the thing is with natural language, the thing that always buzzes the hairs back of my head is what's an artificial language? It's like, yeah, it's like
JavaScript. Um,
it's a language. It's just a language.
it's very
It's like what's
unnatural.
natural.
Okay.
It's like
All right, so
it's,
we're so for the next 3 weeks, we're going to run 3 concurrent tests. We've got a backup plan to get out of each one. This one's simply like, hey, sorry, we can't do it. This one is we'll
yep,
roll back to Artifact, having learned a lot more.
yep,
Natural language. This one, to me, this is not a test. This test has already been passed. It's just how to do it as opposed to can we do it. These two are can we. This is how.
yes. And the thing that I know I've been banging on about this for a bit. The important thing about natural language is we need to get it to forget stuff of part of the session or
Yeah, that's
prioritize
your problem. That's your
stuff.
problem later. Yeah, that's your
Yeah,
problem. I don't want to get into that now. This is
yeah.
more big chunky pieces.
Hey man, it's a big it's a big problem. it's,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like how do you
it's
get
your
it?
problem. It's actually it's your problem. I'm gonna give you the tools to deal with
Yeah,
that, but that figuring that out, that's gonna be your
right,
problem to solve.
right.
Um, okay, and then what? What are we trying to? What happens here?
What ideally what I'd like is to have that blank commissioner where we can hand that
No,
over.
I more mean, is the output a GPU chain?
Oh, you mean
Is
the
it
substrate?
no?
Uh,
What do we get from all this, and who? What's our raise pitch?
a raise pitch, I
What's
think.
our product even?
Well, the Dreamcatcher is a combination of, well, as you know, attribution and ideas and demand. Um, yeah, NFTs part of it, but
Right. So
all of that
these
can.
NFTs become a special kind of NFT. They become a natural. They're sort of described in natural language.
Well, we don't even need to say what. I quite like the pictures, um, because each picture that is generated is unique. It just needs to be unique.
Okay, so that's basically the stuck loop in operation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then this, what's sort of becoming apparent is that we can produce a networked system as opposed to the proof of a future networked system where we can actually have ourselves I'm going to, for lack of a better word, call it a test net.
Okay.
This test net is something you can download this piece of software and you can immediately begin to perform consensus
Mm-hmm.
using staking, where
Mm-hmm.
it's modeled and interpreted in natural language, and the ledger being updated is this sort of the central Git repository.
I think the pitch is it is AI native.
And
Um,
you're really just marshalling. You're really just going around marshalling merges into a very important Git repo, and that's what the whole
Yes, but
right?
in due course we move Git to one side and then we replace it in order to get all the good stuff with Interblock.
I don't think there's
Um,
anything you're missing, man.
um, isn't there
We'll name something.
GPU time on devices that are dispersed around the world, so
Easy.
that
That's
the
just an
cost is.
independent executable component that the LLM can
Mhm.
can call on and send stuff to.
Exactly, but we don't get that. We couldn't do that right now.
Um, no, you're right, but that's not an artifact thing. That becomes a component. It doesn't actually require artifact anymore. Artifact becomes a bit weirder in that if I dump everything I've got right now, Artifact just becomes this Git with LLM managed merging abilities.
All right. Okay. So let me go through the list. Data provenance and data sovereignty.
Yeah,
You said earlier on about an hour ago, Git does.
Git is native for that. It was
Right.
designed with that. That
Right.
was the
Okay.
purpose. You could take a copy of the repo. Everything is a data sovereign fork in your
Hmm.
own world anyway by default. That's just
Okay.
how it goes. And then
So.
when you go to merge, that's an
uh
act of reaching consensus between you and the merge target of are we going to allow this or not?
and it's auditable.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. 100%
Um,
auditable.
Now that can we could throw up a Git repo on a few servers in London,
Yeah,
and I could go to UK.gov and say, hey, I know where the data is. If you
yeah,
want me to,
absolutely.
I can go to the and go to the
Or you
location,
can
hit
you
it with a
can you
hammer.
can run it on your cell phone, and you're like the Git repo is on my phone.
Right.
This is my buddy. He has it running on his phone. The networking protocols that
Yep.
I should
Yeah.
be able
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah. Yeah.
basically
Right. Right.
I'll go through Artifact and I'll rip out the networking module and make it controllable by LLM, and then we should be able to actually get this synchronizing going probably pretty quickly because it's just the LLM negotiates access control, and then
Mm.
once it's gone through access control negotiation, it's just like okay, hit it, and then it's just Git sync from that point
Right.
on.
Right. 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 Right.
Right
Yeah. Yeah.
now,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we might want to do something fancy with like a BitTorrent style distributed pool where you're like, well, I've got all these hashes, I want these things, and you're just like, give me, like, but doesn't really matter. And for early days, just having a couple of strong servers around, you can just pump that out all day.
Right. So someone's going to earn or own those servers that gets running on. So it's centralized. But in
Yeah, I think centralized is the wrong word. It is controlled, like it's
yeah,
isolated.
yeah. Someone has admin control over those servers.
Yeah, yeah, and it could be
Yeah.
just the people in the room because that's all the computers that have access to it.
Yeah.
And then,
Um.
yeah, to
Weirdly,
pass audit,
I think. Yeah. Sorry. Go on. Sorry.
we would actually only need to pass the LLM would need to pass audit, and then I don't know what an attestation about the security of the system looks like at that point, but it's certainly not a traditional audit.
The thing is with the audit, it's necessary, and we're going to be asked to do it. But honestly, there's not a single person in the world right now that could genuinely, hand on heart, say they could audit a multiple LLM model. You just can't.
Yeah, no, that could be a weakness, but we'll get there. I genuinely believe that a natural language specified system, so long as it's simple, like say the Tendermint consensus protocol, something like that,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can actually go from natural language to a model checking language like TLA plus very rapidly, I think. And so
Yep.
maybe with a little bit more effort, we can actually get good at generating and maintaining a TLA plus model of it. And if
Mm-hmm.
if the model check runs and is successful, you can at least say, well, the algorithm has been shown to be without architectural flaw. The
Yeah.
implementation depends on this LLM meeting its sort of
Yes.
implementation
Yes. Yes.
guarantees. And
Yes.
if,
Yes.
you know,
Perfect.
we don't have any audited LLMs at the moment, but they're coming. They're coming. And
Yeah.
you'll be
Yeah.
able to say, well, this is the Mixtral 7B model. It's been audited by the EU,
Right.
by
Right. Right.
NIST.
And
It's,
then
it's got all these
we can bring
certs.
in the assessor. We can bring in
Yeah,
courts. Yeah.
yeah,
Et
yeah, yeah.
cetera. Et cetera. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to end up with a testnet, which is a piece of software that you download or a web page that you load and execute. You would need to provide it with either access to a LLM via API or the ability to run the LLMs on some GPU resource you control. You can then engage in running these. You can have access to all of these natural language applications by way of
Mm-hmm.
the stuck loop being used as a search mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
where you can use vector space as the way to connect with,
Yeah. Yeah. Stuck loop. Yeah.
navigate your way through
Yeah.
vector
Yeah.
space to find other Git repos you need to connect to, and then you can share them with your friends. You can generate new ones of
Right.
your own.
And we can weight those and etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there
Yeah.
should be very little need for actual software code, but when you do, that's covered by the stuck loop. Um,
Yeah.
Someone who's actually qualified at making software can get onto that for you, as opposed to.
The GPU chain seems like that's the last thing that we need to do because
Yeah, so
we
the
can just
demonstration will just use APIs as
yep
LLMs,
yep
and then we can show that we have a successful system. Then we're like, okay, we'd like to burn some resource. We'd like to raise some cash to build the GPU modules,
which will be
because
cheaper and better. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we think that,
Yeah.
first of all, we're showing that the system works, but second of all, like, that's how you make the big bucks, is being able
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. 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 Okay, man.
All right.
Um.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
go into the code base and press delete.
How much time do you have tonight, or
I have
today?
another 50 minutes.
50,
Sorry,
50,
40.
four zero. Okay. I would like your brain on my thinking.
Okay, I'm going to stop this. I'll just make